Do you want to know the number one thing to avoid when you're trying to deal with a narcissist? You're talking to a narcissist, you're talking to a negative person. What is the number one thing that you need to avoid? I'm going to tell you right now. Hey there, I'm Rebecca Zung, and all I have done for the last 20 plus years in helping people as an attorney dealing with narcissists, helping people through mediations, through negotiations, is help people break free through every kind of negotiation that you can think of. And I'm telling you, there is one thing that you absolutely have to avoid. There are a lot of different things that you want to avoid, but I'm going to go through them. And then at the end here, I'm going to go tell you what the number one thing is. So I'm going to give you 6 things to avoid here. And then at the end, I'm going to give you the number one thing to avoid. Okay. So 6 things to avoid. And then I'm going to give you the number one thing to absolutely avoid, the mother load of things to avoid, the hairiest thing to avoid of all. All right. Because let me tell you, when you are dealing with narcissists, toxic people, there actually are a number of things to avoid. All right. So I'm going to help you out here for sure. There's just so many times that it's like you're dealing with a landmine when it comes to narcissists. All right. And I know because I've dealt with them in my personal life as well. And that's why I'm on this mission. I'm on this crusade. I've been recognized as one of the top attorneys in the United States. I've written a couple of best-selling books, but I'm here giving you free advice every single day because I want you to have the information in your hands. So if you want that too, go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. And by the way, if you're looking for ways to disarm that narcissist, free phrases, free responses, how to respond, you don't know how to put it into emails, you don't know how to put it into text messages, you don't know what to say, I've got those responses for you. Just go to disarmthenarc.com. I've got those free phrases for you. Disarmthenarc.com. All right. So number one, don't try to change their mind. Don't try to change their mind. All right. Because you're never going to do that. Once they get it in their mind that they are going to do something, then that's it. You might be able to change their mind in other ways, but if you head on try to change it, they're going to dig their heels in and be super, super stubborn. To change a narcissist's mind, you've got to kind of plant seeds and sort of let them kind of come to their own conclusions and let them sort of think that it was their idea. You can't head on let them think that you're changing their mind, because if you do, they'll never ever change it. So number one, that's one thing. And I'm working my way up to the mother load thing to avoid when talking to a narcissist or a negative person. All right. The second thing to avoid is don't ever try to get them to acknowledge anything you ever did for them, or your accomplishments or anything like that, because they're never going to do that. They will never acknowledge that. And by the way, if you are negotiating with a narcissist, don't think that early on you are generous and say, you know what? I'm going to give them this thing, I'm going to throw in this thing that I know that they want, or I know is something that I'm entitled to, but I'm going to give it to them because then they'll see how generous I am. And then everything's going to get resolved earlier because they're going to see how nice I am, how generous I am. They don't. They either, number one, think that they're entitled to it. So they're like, no, you're not being generous. That was mine to begin with, or I was entitled to that to begin with. Or number two, they just take it. They basically just throw it to the side and just go, "Yeah, and your point is what? I want more." They don't ever go, yeah, you did this thing, or yeah, that's great what you did for that. They just don't. They don't acknowledge you. They don't see what you've done for them. It doesn't become kind of like, this chip that you did early on, this great sort of generosity accomplishment that you got early on. It doesn't happen like that, unfortunately. So don't think that you're going to do that early on and get some kind of goodwill for it. Okay. So that's the second thing. The third thing that you want to avoid when you are talking to a narcissist or a super negative person is thinking that you're going to get closure. A lot of people just want that closure. They want that bow that tied up. Hey, we had a great thing. Let's wish each other well. Let's know that it was all good. And, going forward, let's be on good terms and all those things. That's what I thought when I was wrapping things up with a person in my life that I had a business relationship with. I thought that I could do that and leave it all on good terms and have some kind of closure with it, talk it through. It doesn't work that way with narcissists. They're not capable of it. No matter what you do, even if they wanted to end the relationship, they still end up taking it personally, that you were okay with it, that you're walking away from it. Even if you didn't want to walk away from it, they still end up looking at you as an enemy, no matter what. If you're not for them, then you're against them. You're not going to get that closure. You're still going to end up being public enemy number one. It's not going to feel fair. It's still going to be awful. You're not going to get that. So don't think that. Avoid talking to them about that. Avoid thinking that you're going to get that nice little neat bow at the end of that. Just avoid that conversation. Avoid trying to have that closure conversation because you're not going to get the thing that you think that you're going to. And in fact, you're going to end up hurting yourself more than anything, because whatever you say or do will end up being used against you no matter what, because they will end up saying and twisting things that you do. Okay, so which leads me to the next thing, which is don't argue with them, because when you argue with them, then you will end up getting into that quicksand with them. And, that's exactly what they want you to do when you argue with them. Now you're getting into the thick of it. And, I remember, some of the narcissists that I've known, they'd be like, yeah, now we're getting into it. Now we're having a conversation. They actually enjoy that. They get off on it. They get a high on it. And you are out of your realm, because especially if you are, an empath, and you think that you are going to get to a resolution, you think that you are covering ground, you think that you are getting to an end point. You are not. They are trying to just keep you spinning your wheels. They're just, yanking your chain, spinning your yarn, and it ends up costing you money, costing you time, costing you energy, your mental health, your soul, the whole thing. You are just arguing with them and they're just getting narcissistic supply out of the deal. You're going nowhere. So that is just one of those things that you really need to avoid. And by the way, I've gone through 4 things so far. I still haven't gotten to the number 1 thing that you need to avoid, by the way. Okay. These are just other things that you need to avoid. There's still not even the number 1 thing that you need to avoid. Have you figured out what the number 1 thing is yet? Haven't even gotten to it yet. These are all just other things that you need to avoid. All right. The next thing that you need to avoid, which is still not the number 1 thing, but is a 5th thing that you need to avoid, is definitely avoid defending yourself. Do not defend yourself. Do not go, I didn't do that. That's not me. Are you kidding me? You think that I did that? What are you saying? I'm not a horrible person with money. I don't steal. I'm not a child molester. I don't do. What are you saying? How can you accuse me of that? Those are the kinds of things that narcissists want you to say. I don't beat children. I don't do, I'm not a horrible mother or a deadbeat dad. Those are the kinds of things that narcissists want you to say. They want you to get into it with them, right? They want you to say those things because that is where they get you down into it again, right? Arguing with it. They pull you into that quicksand. They pull you into that mud, right? They start going down into it. Oh, you bought a dog that was a designer poodle or a designer this or that. And you're like, what? I got the dog at the pound and I can prove it. And then there you are defending yourself. Don't go down the path. Don't do it. When you defend yourself, you're agreeing that there is an issue. You don't have to do that. All you have to do is say, I deny what you're saying. No, there's no merit to what you are saying. There's so much more merit in short things. Never explain, justify, or overshare. Just the facts. Stay strong. And I want you to put that in the comments right now. Stay strong. Stay strong. You can do it. And by the way, still haven't gotten to number 1. Still haven't gotten to number 1, which is what I'm going to do right now. Are you ready for number 1? The number 1 thing to avoid when talking to a narcissist or a negative person, the number 1 thing, which I've kind of alluded to here so far, but I haven't actually come out and said it yet. The number 1 thing to avoid when talking to a narcissist is do not take their bait. Do not take their bait because they're going to give you a lot of it. They're going to pull it out and they're going to reel you in like that. Like you are some kind of fish on their hook. And then there you are coming in like that. And like they hooked you like a fish. Okay. And dealing with a narcissist is like getting arrested. Like everything you say or do is going to end up being used against you, right? And you don't want to have to deal with that. And this is whether you're dealing with it in a court case, or any kind of situation. It can be any kind of a negotiation or anything. And you just don't want to have to take that bait. And that's why, if you want to keep your cool against narcissists, I've got a whole video on that. And that's going to be the video that you're going to watch next. Before you get there, if you are dealing with a narcissist, definitely make sure that you have subscribed to this channel. You can join my free private support group, my free private Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung, which will make sure that there is a link to that below. If you do want my free responses, you can use them as responses. You can use them to help you write emails, to draft your text messages, whatever. Key phrases for disarming narcissists, 15 key phrases for disarming narcissists. Just go to disarmthenarc.com, and grab it for free. And then the next video that you're going to definitely want to watch after you've subscribed to this channel and hit that notification bell is how to keep your cool against narcissists. So I will see you in that video. Remember, today is a great day to start negotiating your best life.